Optimism about a possible Washington deal sparked a sizable U-turn on Wall Street today. The Dow erased an early triple-digit loss, ending higher for the fourth consecutive session. And good things came in little packages for investors today. Both the Russell 2000 index of small-cap stocks and the S&P 400 index of mid-cap companies closing at historic highs. At the end of a breathless day of waiting for any news out of Washington, the Dow rose 64 points, the Nasdaq was up 23, and the S&P added 7 points.
And joining us now to talk more about the latest developments in Washington and what the uncertainty means for the markets and the economy is Greg Valliere, Chief Political Strategist at the Potomac Research Group. Greg, good to have you back with us. You heard what John Harwood just said, and I'd like you to sort of add to that if you know anything that is new or different. But let me pose the question to you this way. A week or so ago, there was all the talk that we weren't going to negotiate anything having to do with Obamacare as part of any deal to raise the debt borrowing limit or reopen the government. And what John just described was that there's going to be some movement on income verification as part of the Obamacare, and that a tax on union participants that unions found objectionable is going to go away. Should we just not believe what they say ever and just watch what they do?
Good point, Tyler. Absolutely. And I hate to be the skunk at the picnic this evening, but I'd just point out, first of all, I haven't heard from anybody in the House. These senators, bipartisan group, are getting close to a deal, and maybe they'll have one in a day or so. But I think the House is going to weigh in, and it might not be real warm and fuzzy from that body. Number two, even if we get a deal, guys, all we do is just postpone the crisis. We kick the can down the road. There'll be another crisis in January on the government staying open, a crisis in February on the debt ceiling. So it's not as if we're going to wrap all this up in a neat little package in the next few days.
And I think you really nailed it there, Greg, because anybody you talk to is so fed up by watching this process, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or anyone around the world has been very frustrated by this. So I guess, who won, and when we do get the deal, who won and who lost, and where are we going with all of this for the next round?
Well, you're exactly right. And I would say that, well, obviously, there's not going to be default. Chances of default are like 2%. That's not what the market is worried about. I would say, though, that if we have just continuing crises, one after another, are we going to shut the government down again, another debt ceiling crisis, that has a very corrosive impact on the economy, for business psychology, for consumer psychology. It's not a good story for a recovery that's still pretty fragile.
There's got to be, Greg, a bit of a growth tax in all of this lurching from one crisis to the other. Can you imagine a world where we really came to some long-term agreements on budget policy, on tax policy, and on levels of debt, and what that would do to business confidence and hence to economic growth in America?
Amen, brother. I mean, what people want is predictability. And that's the one thing, even with a deal later this week, there still really isn't predictability. We still have a lot of issues to go through. Two very positive stories quickly. Number one, the Fed will have to keep very dovish for weeks or months to come. I think the first time they'd even really seriously think about tapering would be in late January. That's a good story. And number two, despite all of this, the budget deficit is plummeting. We get new numbers in a couple of days on the previous fiscal year. These will be astonishing figures showing that the deficit continues to fall dramatically.
In a few words, Greg, just want to ask you, does the government open by the end of the week, and what if there's no deal? Real quickly.
Yeah, I think it opens by the end of the week, but we still got a long way to go to get all this stuff resolved.
All right, Greg Valliere, thanks very much, Chief Political Strategist at the Potomac Research Group.